Hey everybody, welcome to the West Dakota Dad. My name is Cody. This is my podcast where we talk about faith, family, and life. This is episode number 23 with motivation. We're going to start off this episode with a little bit of an exercise. When you hear the term rich people, what's the first word that comes to mind? And be honest, not the first word that you think is the right answer, but what's the first word that comes to mind? Is it greed? Is it selfish? Is it generous? Is it happiness? Or hopefully not, must be nice. When I first heard this exercise, the first word that came to my mind was motivated. Other than the obvious that rich people are motivated to work, they're motivated to make money, unless, of course, everything was absolutely handed to them. But for the vast majority, I believe it started off with a motivation. Now, not saying that this motivation was the driving force of their entire life, every waking second of their day was motivated to doing this. No, because in reality, sometimes you just got to get stuff done without the motivation in order to move forward. But I believe it started off with the motivation. Maybe that motivation was simply to be the richest person on earth, or to live the most luxurious lifestyle. I think for a lot of people it was that they just wanted to provide for their family. Maybe to send their kids or grandkids to the best schools, give them something they didn't have growing up. Or maybe it was to support the community, like a local business owner that provides jobs. Or maybe it was helping people, like a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, a psychologist, or a teacher. Maybe they just were running away from poverty. They didn't want to worry about money anymore. And for some, maybe it was a skill that they just loved to do and they wanted to master it, like a professional athlete or an entertainer. Whatever it is, I believe it started off with a motivation. The other night, my wife and I, we were sitting in bed, and I opened up our bank account, and I saw that our stimulus check was pending. I got excited. I looked over at her and said, "Babe, we could almost pay off the rest of my student loans with this." Thinking that she would share the same excitement as me, she instead turned over, looked up at me with these tired, weary eyes, and said, "When are we going to have fun?" And she rolled over and tried to go to sleep. When are we going to have fun? She said it in a way that, not necessarily that I was in trouble, but it was more like a wake-up call, a reality check. And it's made me start to think that, why did I want to be out of debt? Well, I want to be able to retire young if I wanted to. I want to be able to not worry about money. I wanted to be able to live comfortably. I wanted to be able to give generously. It's true. But the further I dug into this question, I realized that I had maybe a small underlying, subconscious motivation that was kind of like a pin in my shoe. And I have to tell myself here, because I'm not proud of it, but I want to be honest. I wanted to be a Dave Ramsey success story. I wanted to be able to take my family down to Nashville, tell our story, and give a debt-free scream. But that was what I wanted, not necessarily what we wanted. I've been following Dave Ramsey before I even met my wife. It all started when I was tired of living with more month than money at the end of each paycheck. And so I made some sacrifices. I quit going out. I quit buying stuff that I didn't need. I worked more. I put every penny I had into paying off my debt. I was able to pay off a maxed out credit card in a couple months. And then something happened. I had met this very beautiful and intelligent lady. I fell in love. But I was cautious because I was like, you know what? I haven't had that much luck, and I don't want her to run away because I was irresponsible with money because I didn't have any. Well, thankfully, she wasn't like that. And once I told her about my plan, she was all on board, and we ended up paying off her credit card shortly after that. Then we decided we wanted to get married. So we saved up money, we cash flowed our wedding. After our wedding, we decided we wanted to grow our family, and we didn't want to live in an apartment, so we saved up and put 10% down on a house. Then after that, we started paying off our debts again. We started paying off our student loans, and we had to hit the brakes again because guess what? Our family is growing. God had blessed us with a child. But we wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to be financially stable enough to cover any hospital bill that might come our way. In the whole process, we had our furnace go out. Thankfully, we were able to write a check for it. And thankfully, insurance covered a lot of our pregnancy, so we had some extra cash. We did some home improvements, and then we realized that maybe we, having a new daughter and a house, we should probably have a little bit more money in our emergency fund. So we saved up to bump that up to 3 months of an emergency fund. Then we paid off our student loans. It was exciting. It was energizing. And after that, 2020 happened. We were uncertain of what my job would be. Thankfully, we had this 3-month emergency fund, so we didn't stress about the money aspect as much. Once we realized my job was secure, we continued paying off my student loans. And I was excited. I could see the end in sight. But the closer it got, I was getting more frustrated because, man, it's not supposed to take this long. It's only supposed to take 18 to 24 months like I had originally written out for us. I was starting to let it consume me to the point where I wasn't even proud of the accomplishments we had already done. We had cash flowed more money than we were in debt. That should be something to be proud of. We weren't irresponsible and just poof, it went gone. We made sure when stuff was coming up, we saved for it. But most importantly of this whole thing, it distracted me from the very person that just rolled away from me asking, when are we going to have fun again? See, even this past year, along with many people, she had been working around the clock, 24/7, answering phone calls, trying to make sure her people and her staff are safe from this virus. Her mental energy and physical energy was depleted. She just wanted to have a little bit of fun, and here I am, pushing harder and harder to get out of debt. This was no longer a race we were running together that we started with. She was starting to feel like I was just dragging her behind her without her having a say. Proverbs 23:4. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. I don't believe that is talking about being rich is bad. It's a mindset. It's a behavior. It ties in nicely with the verse over in 1 Timothy. The verse that's misquoted, in my opinion, money is the root of all evil. When in fact it actually says in chapter 6, verse, where'd it go? 10. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Why? Because when you start to love money, it starts to consume you. You start to get distracted by it from the very things that are in front of you. Also, and you can't live without it. Also, it ties in with this one, in my opinion, in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. It's not saying that money is bad. It's saying that when you can't serve money, aka you can't be in love with money, because then you can't live without it. So, it leads me to ask the question, what's your guys' motivation? Are you and your partner on the same page? Are you in the same chapter? Are you even reading the same book? Something that you might want to sit down and discuss. And note to self, when you start to run a race with somebody, make sure you run the race with them, together. Because it's a lot more fun that way. Rather than someone feeling like they're being drugged behind without a say, or even worse, left behind. I want to make a small disclaimer here. This is not to bash Dave Ramsey's program by any means, because he has proven, and many others have proven, that it works. And it's true. It does. But the biggest thing is to make sure you guys are on the same page. And I just want to leave off with, if my financial advisors listening, we did not spend our entire stimulus money just to have fun. We just used a small portion of it to have a little bit of relief, to be able to take our distractions away from the chaos going around. So, till next time, I hope you guys took something away from my boneheaded mistake, and I hope you guys have a great week. So, till next time, I'm the West Dakota Dad. Thanks for listening to the West Dakota Dad podcast. If you like what you heard, please drop a rating, share with your friends, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any content.